Hi, today I want to do something a little different. I'm going to start a series of 3 videos, and may look like a repeat of what I've done before, but it's going to go a little bit further. Way back when, if you followed me from the very beginning or have picked up some of the older videos and gone back to the playlist, one of the very first ones I did was how do I taste wine or something like that. And yeah, it's the 3 basic steps. You look at it, you smell it, and you taste it. So we're going to do that again, except I'm going to go a lot more in depth, and I'm going to talk a lot more about what's going on. By this time, if you've been watching my videos all along, you've learned quite a bit, I hope, about wine and things, and it's time to go a little deeper on some of these topics, and this is going to be one of them. So we're going to start out, and part 1 is going to be what do I see when I look at wine? Why do I look at it besides just to say, oh, that's pretty color? And I'll tell you, we're going to get to that right now. So first of all, you do look at it, and we'll just kind of recap. By the way, if you haven't seen that first video, check out the link for it and then come back to this one. So I'm going to do 3 separate videos: sight, smell, and taste. So come back, go do that one if you haven't seen it before, or refresh your memory. Go watch it again. It won't hurt. It's not that long. And then come back and pick this one up. So we'll start with the visual aspects of wine. Now I'll have to move the camera a little bit later, but we'll just kind of take a look at it. You hold it up to the light. Look at the color. This is obviously a red wine. It's not white, and I'm holding it up where you can't see it because that's where my light is. But one of the best ways to do that is you take it, tip it this way, and then look straight down through it against a white, preferably, surface, so you can see what you're looking at. And let's just go ahead and do that now. I've already got a mess here. Clean this off a bit, and we'll move the camera. Okay, I think I've got it situated so we can actually see the wine and not just the glare on the lights, so let's take a look at that. Now, first thing, of course, you want to look at it and see the color. This is the Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's a little bit lighter in color than is typical of some that I drink, but very nice color nonetheless. It's kind of on the ruby side, I would call that, maybe a little magenta in there, but you want to look now beyond just the color. And I'm going to see if I can, if you look kind of at this part through the top, in other words, look straight down, I'm just going to point from underneath, you want to get an idea of how transparent or how translucent it is. Put your fingers under it or something else, can you see those, or is it really, really dark? And this is for any wine, not just the one I've got here. This one is fairly transparent, it's not super dense. I can see my fingers when I do this. And if I had something written on there, I could probably read it if it was big enough print. So that's one thing you want to look. That kind of gives you your density, your visual density. But look right along the edge. And you may want to get up close, even do a magnifying glass if you want. I mean, you're not going to do this every time you drink a glass of wine, but it's a good study thing. You'll notice that at the very tip of the wine here, the edge of the wine, it's almost completely clear and may even be very clear if you look at it through a magnifying glass. So it looks just like water, or in this case, water blended with alcohol. Now, as you come down this way, looking at it more towards the deep part, then of course it gets less and less transparent. So what you're looking at is that very edge. What's the color there relative to the overall color? Now, that will give you some idea of how viscous it is on the tongue, how the mouth feel, in other words. It will give you an idea of the age of the wine. Your younger wines tend to be your redder colors, if it's a red wine, and compared to a very much older wine that would be more brown there. You may not see the brown if you just look through the middle part, the thick part, or hold it up to the light that way. That way, kind of hard to see. But you look on the very edges and you start to see the color variations. This one's still pretty, it actually looks a little brighter when you look at it through the light and hold it up than it does in this direction. This has got a little bit more of a darkness to it, and it is about, what would that be, 4 years old. This is 2011. So, and it's 2015 right now. So just was harvested and fermented about 4 years ago, as I speak. So it's not super old. It's fairly young still, and therefore you do have a lot of color. It's got a tinge of darkness to it. When you get a red wine that's got almost a brown color to it, that's a sign of age. The browner it gets, the more tawny, dark colored it gets, the older it is, typically. That's your sign. The browner, the older. And that doesn't mean it's not going to be 1,000 years old or anything, but it would be an older wine. Some of the actual little bits that you can see in here will have broken down and turned brown. It's kind of like they, just turn brown with old age or something. I don't know quite how to describe it otherwise. But you'll find when it starts to turn brown too, the flavor profile will change dramatically. And those are sometimes on the finer wines, the one that, okay, you're buying this, don't even bother drinking it for 10 years. You're waiting for that point, that maturation point, for it to come around and really start to break down and become a very smooth, wonderful, enjoyable wine. So that's kind of the peak of drinkability. Now, if you wait too much longer past that, your scale of drinkability starts to decline. So it gradually climbs up over a number of years, and then it takes a nosedive. So that's when, if you see a comment on a wine, say the 2005 XYZ wine is drinking really well or drinking at its best right now. If you've got any of that, crank it out or open it up and start serving to your friends and drinking it yourself, because you don't want to keep it a whole lot longer past its peak. Okay, now we're talking about red wine, but the same types of things apply to a white wine. If you do a white wine, first of all, you're going to have a different color. It's going to be more transparent because it's a lighter color. So you look at the color there, and depending on the grape, they will start out with a degree of yellowness or goldenness or even almost no color at all, what's sometimes referred to as a platinum color. In other words, it looks just like water. It's so lacking in color. Now, that's dependent on the wine and the grape varietal. So if you get something like a Chardonnay, it should have some sort of a yellow tint to it, or a golden tint if you want to make it sound better. And the degree there that you're looking for is how far from a very light yellow towards more of a deep honey amber yellow. The more deep the color, the more towards brown again. If it goes from a golden yellow to a more of a honey yellow to an amber yellow, you're getting an older wine. If it's the same one, it started out the light color, now it's darker, that's an indication of age again. So you're going to have that in, let's see if that helps any, probably not. You're going to have that in white wines. With the red wines, it just tends to get more towards browning. Okay, so what that tells you, one of the things it tells you is the age. You're really looking at the wine to get a feel for how old it is. And again, this is something you have to kind of pick up over time. It's like, okay, well, I'm drinking a 4-year-old, I'm drinking an 8-year-old. What's the color? Is it the same type of wine I had the last time I looked at this? So yeah, if you're comparing a Pinot Noir, for example, to a Cabernet, they're going to have two totally different color ranges. Pinot Noirs, young and bright and fresh, tend to be very magenta colored, and then as they age, they get darker. But it's a different type of dark color compared to a Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, actually, I should have left that down there. I'm going to have to find something. I'll be right back with you. Okay, something else that you can get visually in a glass of wine is what's referred to as the legs. Some people call it arches. I don't like that term. Legs is better. Now, usually we do that, we swirl it around, and you kind of hold it up and look at it. Well, here's an alternate way. If you really want to get a good look, is you find something, let's push that over here a bit. This is a box, and you could do it with a book or something. Now, you have to be careful how much wine is in your glass, because if it's a lot and you get it tipped too level, you're going to spill out. So you watch that first of all. And right here's the edge of my glass, and I've still got half a finger length before I get to the wine. So what I'm going to do is take that, I'm going to roll it along there. And what that will do is coat evenly the entire inside of the glass. The entire inside there, just put it where you can see it. Now this wine is not showing up a lot in terms of the legs. It's going to be a little difficult to see on camera probably. But that gives you a little bit of indication than just doing the twirl thing, because it's a little bit more uniform and you can do it more quickly if you're careful. So one thing you want to look at when you do that is right after you do it, hold it over that white surface again and see how thickly coated the entire inside of the glass is. And at the same time, the color. Now this one being a lighter body, again, not sure if it'll show up that well on camera, but when I do that, I can see that light reddish color that coats it. Now there's other wines that I've drank. Petit Syrah, good example, very inky one. You do that same thing with Petit Syrah, and you can see clearly the coating on there because it is a very dark and viscous wine. This one, not as much. It's a lighter cab than I typically drink. I know you all enjoy looking at my pretty face, so I feel funny when I'm talking. I can't, and I'm talking to my hands, and I tend to lift things up. So we're back to this view now. Okay, so that's your twirling method, and you can see as I twirl it, you get an indication of the color. But when you do that roll, then you really get a better one. I'm going to do it again. It'll be off camera here, but all right, let's see. I'm not sure you're going to see much in the way of legs on there. It's a little bit too light. So I hope that gives you a little bit more to go on. You know, why we look at wine. You know, it's pretty, it's fine, it's nice. So next video, we'll talk about the nose. So in the meantime, you can practice looking at it, try some different things. Try different wines, tilt them, look at that very edge part, see the differences, and start to remember. It's like, okay, well, the one I had last week, it was this way, and now this one's this way, and that was really red, this one's a little brown. Oh yeah, this one's older, or different varietals too. They're going to be different. So lots of differences, so it takes a lot of glasses of wine to really start getting this down. And believe me, I've had a lot of glasses. So cheers, enjoy your own glass. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, so let's start with the wine in front of us. Okay, first thing you want to do is take a look at it. A lot of the joy of wine is the beauty of it, and that beauty comes not only from tasting it and smelling it, but from looking at it. You observe the color. Now, you can't quite see this, I'm going to put it down, but you look at it and over a white surface, something that's really plain, like plain white sheet of paper or napkin if you've got that, depending on where you're at, and you just take a look at it. You want to see, first of all, the color. What color is that? It's, you know, you don't just say purple. It's not purple. This one's a deep, dark red. It's got some purple elements to it, but it's not an inky black, super dark purple.